Get ready to reclaim your life, discover inspiring stories, practical tools, and the path to true happiness. This is Reclaim Your Life with Irina. Let's begin the journey. Welcome to Reclaim Your Life with Irina. Welcome to 2024. Today is a solo episode. I want to wish you a happy new year. Thank you so much for watching the podcast. I wish you a lot of abundance, prosperity, health, good fortune, and hope, because the main idea of the podcast is to bring back hope. As I often say, you're only one decision away from reclaiming your life. So let's dive into today's episode. I felt it was fitting, since it's the first episode of 2024, to embrace new beginnings. So this episode is all about, it's like a guide to starting fresh in 2024. Oftentimes, what is this, first of all, the significance of a new year? We often associate new year as a symbol of fresh start and new beginning, new opportunities. I don't know about you, but in my family, we have this tradition: when the clock strikes 12 at midnight on New Year's Eve, you make a wish of what you want to create in 2020, like in the new year. And this is how you start your year, with those first few intentions or wishes that you set for yourself, because you're hopeful of new beginnings, of what you can create, what can unfold. And so today you're going to learn practical guidance for embracing positive change in the coming year. Oftentimes, if we want to improve something, first we got to understand where we are. Where are we coming from? What I've learned through many personal development books and seminars is, if you don't measure something, you don't progress, you don't grow. If you don't track something, whether it is your health, whether it is what you eat, or how you are feeling, if you don't measure your progress, if you don't measure where you are, how are you going to know how you are performing against yourself? And it's not to compare yourself with others. It's your own personal kind of review of your life, where you've been. So first, let's reflect on the past year. And it's not, just to talk about the negatives or the positives, but look at your year holistically speaking in different areas of life. Depends how you see life. You can, choose to focus on specific area, whether it's relationships or health or fitness. You can look at all of those categories and specifically highlighting the highs and lows in every single category. And maybe if you do this kind of practice as a year practice, I think it's a good exercise to have like a year review and look back. What did you do last year? Or if you are brand new into this process, create this practice for yourself. If you want to improve any area of your life, you first got to understand where you are coming from. So what you can do is create maybe a list of achievements. If it's something you never done before and you want to start fresh, maybe what were the 10 highlights of the year? You can start right there. I'm going to share my personal experience, and I encourage you to please share in comments down below. What were your top 10 moments of 2023? Let me know. So for myself, my high levels were, I wanted to launch this podcast, exactly, the Reclaim Your Life with Irina. This is a second podcast. I also host single parent success stories. And I started planning the podcast, actually, this particular one, back in 2022. So I was a little bit procrastinating in starting and launching, because I was thinking, how am I going to put this another thing on my plate while I already have the other one, and I have so many other projects I'm working on? How can I make it something that is sustainable? Because I didn't want to just come out, produce a couple of episodes and then stop. I wanted to create something sustainable that comes out on a weekly, consistent basis to provide resources and value. And so one of the highlights of 2023 is that Reclaim Your Life with Irina was launched on August 31st. And we are keeping going. Today's episode 18. So that was one of the highlights. Another highlight was creating my solo book. I'm also working on a solo book. It's going to actually come out this year, but I started last year. And that has been actually 3 years in the making. The idea was born 3 years ago, and I finally got down to sit down and write this year. in 2023. I started and I keep going. I have completed 7 chapters and I have 5 more to write. Another great thing that happened in 2023, Single Parent Success Stories podcast is creating a second book, a second volume, Soul Parent Inspirational Guidance and Wisdom, Volume 2. It's also happening. So it's another highlight of 2023. And this is in that area. And then you can pick an area, let's say health. So in a space of podcasting and book writing, those were the highlights. If I look at my health area, how did I fare last year? And I encourage you to do the same, to evaluate your year. Where have you been? Do you feel you have great health plan in order in place, or do you feel that you need help in that area? And let me know in comments down below if you want to improve any area in the health regard. So for myself personally, what happened, I'm also a certified 10x fitness coach, but as life happens, I fell off the wagon and I stopped doing the exercises on a consistent basis. But in 2023, I have successfully embarked and reinserted myself into the 10x journey, where I have completed. Today was the first workout of 2024, and I'm on workout 35, I believe, 36. It's 2 weekly workouts of 10 to 15-minute sessions, fit into the schedule. And I am proud to say that I think I started in the middle of 2023, so sometime in June, because I figure I'm at 35 and it's 2 per week. So I figure, so 6 months in, I am keeping consistent with the practice of continuous daily, weekly, twice weekly workouts of 10x, and I feel amazing. I have a lot of energy. I don't have any pains and aches, and it allows me to do so many great things. So in the health area, this was also a great year because I was able to reintroduce the habit that I originally started, and I stuck with it and I keep on going. So that was another highlight in health. So you can pick an area of your life, and to review that area. So you can, here is the sampling for you. For example, health and fitness could be one category. Another category is your relationships with others, family, social relationships, friends, financial life, personal wellness, emotional fitness. You can look at different areas of your life and highlight what were the top 3 things happened in that area, and what were the 3 things that you wish they weren't so hot. They weren't, maybe there were the low points, and something you want to learn from that experience, because it's nothing is ever good or bad. It is an experience. And if something is bad from one perspective, because when we see our mind is designed in such a way to prevent us from the fight or flight response. So we always notice the negative, especially when we're in the midst of that situation. We only see the negative aspects of it. But everything is a learning experience for you to see, okay, this was the experience, it didn't work out. What can I do differently next time? If you look at your life that way, a life of an observer, as opposed to be some other way, you're going to learn so many positive things for yourself. So personally for me, what were the low points, or not low points, things I want to improve actually in 2024, is focusing on my sleep, making sure I shut off everything and I go to bed by 10 o'clock at night and I wake up at 5:30, bright and ready to go. I want to reintroduce that, because there was a time in my life, and I love sunrises, when I do that for myself, because any great morning actually begins the night before. So I want to improve on my nighttime evening routine. This is an area where last year didn't work out so good. So in 2024, I want to improve on that area. So I invite you to share down in the comments below, what were the top 3 things that happened last year for you? Pick an area, any area, whether it's your health, your wellness, relationships, your emotional health. Pick an area and let me know what were the top 3 things that happened for you last year. Or if you, watching, listening on a Spotify or Apple, on Spotify, you can actually interact. You can leave comments down below. So I encourage you to tell me what were the top 3 things of 2023 and what were the 3 things that you want to improve. Because again, nothing is ever good or bad. It's just an experience. And what did you learn from that experience? If you view your life that way, your life becomes so much more interesting and fascinating. Because on the end of the day, you came here on planet Earth to have a human experience. And from any experience, you can learn, and then you can grow, and you can improve, and you can decide whether you want to change something or you want to stick with it. And again, acknowledging that first step to any progress, to any growth, to any new beginning is to first acknowledge where you are. You know how a doctor, when you come to see a doctor, they take an assessment of your conditions, of your symptoms. You are like a doctor of your life. You examine where you are in life today. How are you feeling in your like physical health, emotional, mental, spiritual? How are you feeling in those areas? Take an assessment. Look at your life. Again, you're doing it for you. It's not, somebody to show somebody so they judge you. It's just for you to understand where you are. Because when you measure something, you can then grow from that point in place. You kind of like, it's as if you're taking a mental picture, a snapshot of what your life has been like, and it then shows you, okay, what do I want to improve? What do I want to change in the new year? So acknowledging both successes and setbacks is a great way to first understand where you are, because that's kind of at the ground level. Another concept I like to introduce is intentions versus setting resolutions. A lot of times we set New Year resolutions, but guess what happens? 2 months in, 2 weeks into the new year, you're all excited, you set your resolution, and then you fall off the wagon. Life rolls in, things happen, you let things slide, and especially we are so resistant to change because think of it, for our mind, the primary directive of our mind is to preserve and protect and to keep us safe. And how is change viewed? Change is viewed as something not safe, something out of the ordinary, something you cannot, because it's change. Change is like something different is going to happen. It's unpredictable. Change is unpredictable. But yet, if you look at life, the only thing constant in life is change. And the sooner you accept that, the easier the experience will be. So I invite you to look at your life a little bit differently, as opposed to setting those resolutions that you know are going to fall through the cracks. What if you create intentions instead? And what is the difference? What is the difference between resolutions and intentions? Intention is very important, actually. It's your inner knowing, it's your inner feeling. What do you intend to create for yourself in any given circumstance? Since we are focusing right now on new beginnings of 2024, what are your intentions for this year? And again, just like you evaluated your life of last year, you've seen where you have been, you kind of did your life audit. Based on that information that you've gathered on yourself, what kind of intentions do you want to create? What kind of changes do you want to invite in your life? And I think intention is an easier way than resolution. Resolution is something kind of, it feels a little bit forceful. You have good intentions, but resolutions feel a little bit forceful, especially if it's a new thing you're trying to bring on. If you're trying to lose weight, that's what oftentimes happens in the new year. People setting resolutions, I'm gonna lose 10 pounds. And then when we don't see rapid results right away, we fall off the wagon. So how do you then create such a goal or such an intention that allows you to welcome this particular trait into your life. And what is meaningful to you? How do you see your life? What do you want to create? Oftentimes, it is so easy when somebody is asking you, what do you want? You start blurting out things of what you don't want. And you gotta actually think about, what do you actually want? We are so conditioned of, throwing things that we don't want. But it's difficult to, sit down and kind of create, what do you want? Because our mind starts throwing us ideas. Oh, you can't have that. Or you're not pretty enough. You're not skinny enough. So always giving you immediate negative feedback, which is hard to break out of. But imagine for a second, if everything is great, if everything is perfect, you are who you are. What do you actually want your life to be? Have you ever thought that? Have you ever asked yourself this question? What do you want your life to be? Because you are creating your life with the thoughts that you think about on a day-to-day basis. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, we are the creatures of habit, and 95% of the thoughts we create are the same thoughts of yesterday. And if those were negative thoughts, imagine what are you creating for yourself. So being mindful is important. But let's get back to intention setting. What do you want to create? What are your intentions for 2024? Let me know in the comments down below. What is your top intention? Just pick one. What is your intention for 2024? What do you want to create? Doesn't have to be grandiose or big. It could be something meaningful to you, because we're all different. And what is meaningful to me could be totally, you don't even care about that for yourself. So let me know, what is your top intention for 2024? What is meaningful to you? What do you want to change? What happened in 2023 that was so maybe difficult? Or what was that low point that you now want to change that in 24? Let me know. There is a great book about habits, because it's all come down to habits. We already have a preconceived set of things that we do on day-to-day basis. And how do you introduce something new to yourself? There are actually several books, but one I have read called Atomic Habits by James Clear. It is a great, great book about guy's actually personal transformation, how he went through. He had to basically teach himself how to walk again by watching his sister. And he had a whole life was planned out for him. He was I believe he was a soccer player and had a scholarship and everything. And then something happened. He had a traumatic event that kind of said he could no longer play soccer or football. And he needed then to kind of reevaluate his life and learn new habits, learn how to walk all over again. And so the concept of atomic habits, atomic from the sense of automatic, something you do without thinking, because our brain is very efficient. Think about it. If I don't know how old you are, but if you're driving a car, when you started out driving a car, you probably were paying attention. Where is the brake? Where is the gas pedal? And all the mirrors. I mean, mirrors are still important, but before you didn't know how to drive, you were paying attention at every single step. And now, through years of repetition, through years of reinforcing of that habit, your body now knows how to drive. So many times you'll be eating, or you're talking, or you're listening to music, you're daydreaming, and somehow you get from point A to point B, safe and sound, everything's great. How did you get there? Did you ever notice driving? I mean, you get out from your home, you do your thing, your routine, you get into the car, and then you realize, where did it go? Where did the time go? How am I already here? And your body gotten so good that it learned how to drive. Your subconscious mind has a program now, driving program. When you sit in the car behind the wheel, you don't even think about when you need to make a turn. Your body already knows where to press the gas, when to press the brake, when to look in the mirror, when to, do the horn thingy. Your body knows because your mind is very efficient. It wants to have those automatic things that you do without thinking. And so that's the whole idea behind atomic habits, how to create that kind of change that happens naturally as a byproduct of your daily living. Of course, in the beginning, basically you have to break it down, just like when you were learning how to drive a car and you were micro focusing on specific element of the whole driving, and you broke it down into micro steps. So similarly, when you're trying to change something and you're trying to bring something new, you got to break that down, this complex goal. Let's say your goal is to lose 20 pounds of weight. And on the outside, it looks gigantic, it looks massive because it's so far away. And for your mind, it's too complex. You got to break it down. You got to make it simple micro thing that you do without thinking even. So in Atomic Habits, one of the things he talks about is actually going to the gym. And think about it, it's like it's a simple thing, right? But the whole process is broken down. So you first attach a habit that you already do. Like, let's say you brush your teeth every day. You don't even think about it because you've been doing it so long. Let's say you have lunch, and after lunch you wash your dish. So he was saying, like, adding an additional habit to something that you are already doing without thinking. So the idea was to go to the gym after, and it was broken down into several micro steps, and you got to build up on it. After you wash the dishes, after you did your lunch, you put the dish in the sink or you wash the dish. All you do is you go and you put on your sneakers. You're not even going to the gym yet. You're just training your body that after you put the dish in the sink, next step you do, next habit you do is you tie your shoes to go to the gym. That's it. That's all you do. And you do that process for a week because you're trying to create a habit, automatic habit that you do without thinking. And basically you then add additional element. Maybe like you get your gym clothes on next. And then after you try that for a while, you finally, let's say, get to the gym. You drove to the gym, you go in and you spend there 5 minutes. As soon as 5 minutes are over, you're getting out of there. And you do that for a while. And then you basically increase the time spent in the gym by a little bit at a time. So over a course, I know it looks kind of long, but what you're trying to do is to create this new habit of living and being. And when you break it down into the small steps, you're making it comfortable for your mind. So it's not so much of your out of your comfort zone. It's actually a tiny bit more. So then it becomes easier because the whole idea when you're trying to create a new habit is to make something that is unfamiliar to your mind familiar. So you're creating kind of a shifting your identity. You're changing a little bit your perspective of who you are becoming by introducing those micro changes into your day-to-day living. When you're tying the habit that you are already doing, like brushing teeth or putting a plate into the sink after you have lunch, and you're adding additional step to that, an additional step to that. Think of it as, I don't know, sewing a garment, right? You don't start right away. You first need the material, then you need a needle, and you need the thread. So you're kind of threading your habits one on top of the other until this complex thing evolves and you have established a new routine. So those micro steps. So breaking down your big concept idea into minutia, little tiny things that allow you then to overcome that obstacle of constantly facing those things. that it is a change, it's a new thing. And again, when you achieve those goals, when you do those little things, you gotta celebrate. Celebrating small wins is crucial and important, and it's like a little dopamine hit to let your mind know, why do you even do this thing? Whether that's losing weight or whatever your long-term goal is, you gotta create micro moments when you're going to achieve those small steps and celebrate it. Otherwise, what happens if you don't celebrate the small win? Then your mind might get, first of all, you never feel satisfied because you set this goal, you achieve it, you don't celebrate it, you don't recognize it, you never feel enough. You never feel like you have arrived. That's one thing. And another thing, your brain might get distracted. Like, why am I doing all this? What's the point? So you got to remind by doing those small micro wins. Also, on the road of change, on the road of new beginnings, some of the top three common obstacles that hinder personal growth and change are this. First of all, is fear of failure. Many people fear failure because of associated negative emotions, judgment of others, or the belief that failure defines their capabilities. So sometimes they don't even start because they're afraid to fail. I say, and many personal development teachers talk about it. Fail fast, fail often, because only from failure can something then change and grow. Because if you don't fail, how are you going to know what success looks like, right? So think about it a little bit differently. Shift a little bit. Look at failure as a learning opportunity. Remember when you were little, when you were just learning how to walk, how many times did you fall? Or did you immediately get up and walk because you already knew everything? Probably not. We probably fell dozens of times, but there was nobody there to judge you. You fell. You sat, you got up again, and you tried again and again and again, and maybe it was 100 times you fell before you finally took your first couple of steps. Well, in my case, I was sitting. I was waiting for somebody to come pick me up. That's what my parents tell me. So we didn't have that fear of failure when we were little. We had a curiosity about life. We had this way of being and discovering, and I think we lost that through our life of stress and day-to-day responsibilities. We lost that ability to be curious. And even if we were little, we didn't know any different. So what does we do? We get up, brush off our pants, and keep going. So look at your life that way. Anytime there is a setback, look at it as a learning opportunity. What is the silver lining? One of the things that I forgot his name, but looking at a situation, Michael Beckwith, look at the situation, and he says, what is presently good here that I currently cannot see? What is the silver lining on this negative event, or on this setback? If you think about it, you will come up with some answers. I'm sure of that. I can look at my own life. At the time, a breakup, separation, divorce, it was terrible. I didn't know how to continue. I didn't know how to move forward. It was a negative event when it happened, and it was very painful and saddening. And it felt like the life was over. My life was over. That's how I felt. But looking back, if that didn't happen, then I wouldn't have been where I am today. There wouldn't be this podcast. There wouldn't be this growth. There wouldn't be the things I've learned about myself I didn't know I had. I wouldn't have discovered myself. I wouldn't have been able then to share what I've learned. I wouldn't be the person I am today had I not had that setback that happened, that negative event that occurred. And I'm not promoting this negative event, but looking back when I was in that event, everything looked bleak, glim, dark, hopeless. Looking at it right now and we can only kind of trace back our steps when time has passed and we're looking back to look at our life backwards and seeing what were the lessons from that particular experience. What did I learn? And what I learned about myself, that I need to speak up. I didn't have to be quiet. I gotta articulate how I feel. I gotta share more about who I am. It's not just a game of, being quiet and for the sake of peace, and not speaking up when something is against your beliefs, is against your values. So those are the things that I needed to learn. And sometimes you gotta, like I said earlier, you gotta find or see what that bottom is in order for you to see the top. You gotta know what cold is so that you can appreciate the hot. When you look at your life that way, you can see then a series of lessons and an opportunity for you to learn and grow and pick something from that. Pick something from that experience. So I invite you to share in the comments below, what was that negative experience of the past that now looking back, you see as a learning opportunity? And what did you learn from that experience? Look at your life that way. And what had unfolded? So that's the first obstacle. Second obstacle is comfort zone and resistance to change. I don't know who said it, but nothing ever good comes out from the comfort zone. We only grow outside of our comfort zone, right? How do we expand that? And we always resistant to change because our mind primary directive is to preserve and protect and to keep us safe. Because why is that? Because change is unpredictable. You don't know what to expect. It's change. It's something different from how you are living now. And if you are comfortable now, why change? How do they say, why fix something that isn't broken? Why change? Sometimes you got to let go of something good to have something great in your life. So how do we then break that resistance to established routines? Because deep down, you know what's good for you and you know what's bad for you. The question is, why are you not doing the thing you know you need to do? That's the biggest question. Oftentimes, we want to fit in, and that's why we don't want to change. And that familiarity of the status quo can create a sense of security, even if it hinders personal development. So let's say if your usual routine is, going out on a Friday, having a happy hour with your friends, or maybe getting wasted, or doing something not so productive, and let's say you want to change. The people in your environment, the friends that you drink with, your drinking buddies or you hanging out buddies, are not gonna like that new you. Like, what are you trying to do? Think you better than us? So it might be difficult to change in that regard. When let's say you want to do something else, you don't want to keep on doing that kind of activity, or you want to reduce that activity to maybe once a month as opposed to every weekend, every Friday. How do you change? How do you allow that to change, that comfort zone? What can you do? First of all, you can create a different circle. Create a circle of friends, of people, acquaintances, who see more in you than you see in yourself. Surround yourself with people who you want to be like. People who are already doing what you want to be doing. So that could be one step. And if you want to create something different, something better, you gotta step out of your comfort zone, no matter how comfortable it feels. Depending on your personal or professional growth and what you want to change in those areas, you gotta then embrace the change. And then you can do those small steps that I shared earlier about atomic habits. and how this guy was, you know, his main goal was to go to the gym, to work out in the gym. But let's say if you're a couch potato, how do you get yourself from a couch potato identity to a person who exercises, and that his lifestyle, he's a person who exercises. This is who he wants to be. So it goes back again to breaking the big long-term goal into small digestible chunks that you can do on your day-to-day basis. Manageable goals, celebrating achievements along the way, because you are your own cheerleader. You gotta get there. Nobody's gonna come save you. You gotta save yourself. Because for myself, in my own personal journey, I was waiting for somebody to come rescue me from my misery. And then when nobody came, I decided to rescue myself. So you gotta be your own cheerleader. Third biggest common obstacle to hinder personal and professional growth and personal change is negative self-talk and self-doubt, and that's a big one. As I mentioned earlier, we are creatures of habit, and 95% of the thoughts we are thinking are the same thoughts of yesterday. And if those thoughts are negative, guess what happens? You like on repetition. You're telling your mind what to do. Your mind doesn't know any different. It takes everything literally. Whatever you say, does not practice negatives, doesn't know any better. It listens to you like you are the true power that you are, and it takes everything literally. So you gotta be very mindful what you talk about. If you're in a negative environment and other people are saying negative things about you, if you listen to those people long enough, then soon their words are going to be coming out of your mouth because you are exposing yourself to that. So you got to be mindful. Some of the great solutions that you can implement for conquering that negative self-talk. One of the techniques is end automatic negative thoughts. That one I learned from Daniel Amen. And he had this unravelment, this development when he came to his house one day, and he discovered his house taken over by ants. What are you going to do when your house is taken over by ants, or your mind is taken over by automatic negative thoughts? You're going to stamp them out. You're not going to let them continue, right? You don't want them to take over. So he started stamping his ants. And then he said, what an interesting idea. What if you stamp your negative thoughts? Literally, physically stamping your feet or grinding with your hands when you notice that negative thought. Of course, it takes time to recognize that you are in that loop, because we are in that loop. When the negative thought pops into your head, you keep going, you keep developing. It takes conscious acknowledgement of the thought to be able to recognize it as a negative thought first. And how do you do that? You gotta practice being present. You can watch my being present video. I'm gonna link it in the episode notes, also from this podcast. When you are present, then you can be more at peace, and you can then recognize what happens. You can recognize your thoughts. Instead of them taking over, you're going to be more present, more assertive as opposed to reactive. So that's another solution, by being present. Automatic negative thoughts, stamping out those negative thoughts. Creating, sometimes when we have the thoughts, the thing that can help break the pattern is not another thought. You cannot combat one thought with another thought, but having something ready, having a list, a document of positive intentions, of good affirmations, of positive thought patterns that you have typed, and maybe place it in somewhere visible in your area where your high frequent traffic area, maybe on your fridge or next to your computer. So when you notice that negative bandwagon taking over your mind, You can take that piece of paper or take that reminder and read it to yourself. You can speak it over the thoughts. That is more powerful. Have a recording ready of your good intentions, of your good thoughts, the thoughts that you should be thinking. Have a recording ready and hit the play button when you notice the negative thoughts taking over. Because the more you talk about the negative stuff, the more self-doubt you're going to create. So how do you bring that back? Again, 3 things I shared. You can do and stamping out those negative thoughts. Second thing is having that piece of paper ready with your positive intentions, your good thoughts, and speak over those thoughts. And the third idea is having something recorded. Your voice, your recording of things, of good intentions, of good thoughts that are good for you. You know what those are, and speak over them or listen to them to help break that pattern of that negative thinking. So I invite you down in the comments down below. Share your intentions, share your goals for the new year, for 2024. Let me know what kind of topics do you want to learn about on this podcast, Reclaim Your Life with Irina. Let me know if this episode was helpful today on setting intentions, embracing, starting new beginnings, and setting intentions versus resolutions. So some of the key takeaways, what we discussed today: new year, new you, new beginnings. How do you start those new beginnings? First, take assessment of your life. So take assessment of your 2023 first. Let me know in the comments down below, what were the highlights? What were the top 3 things that happened for you? Pick an area that you want in your life, whether it is physical health, emotional, mental, or spiritual. And let me know what were the 3 top things that happened and what were the 3 low things that happened. Some things that you want to improve upon. That's first. First thing is to acknowledge where you are, to do like a life audit to see where you are. That's first. And then what do you want to create based on what happened in 2023? How do you want 2024 to be different? What kind of intentions do you want to set? Let me know in the comments down below. What is one intention you're setting for 2024? And then we also covered, I shared about Atomic Habits. I think it's a great book to read if you're trying to implement something new into your life. Instead of replacing something, you can add this new habit that you're trying to implement to something that you're already doing. It's going to be so much easier to create something automatic. Of course, it is a long process, but look at your life. Life is not a sprint, it is a marathon. And any change that you make is a beneficial change towards your future. Or if it was a negative thing, it's a learning experience. So then everything just is an experience. Instead of judging it as negative or positive, you look at your life as an experience and you gain positive lessons from that experience, with which then you can go and make better informed decisions, better choices next time when something unfolds in your life. We also shared 3 common roadblocks when it comes to personal development and growth, and it was fear of failure, comfort zone and resistance to change, and negative self-talk. So thank you so much for watching, listening, and subscribing to the podcast. I appreciate each and every one of you. Be sure to share this episode with one of your friends whom you want to have a great 2024. Those are some helpful tips. And leave us a review over on Apple Podcasts. It really does help to spread the message and make the podcast available and bring back the hope, because what I often say is you're only one decision away from reclaiming your life. In the next episode, is going to be an interview with Irina Partnova, who is a manifestation coach, and she's gonna share her wake-up call, her moment that allowed her to wake up and to change her life. And for her, it was the loss of her job allowed her then to create something different for her life. So join me next week with Irina Partnova, another Irina, as we learn what was the wake-up call, what were the lessons that she learned from that wake-up call. And have a great rest of your day, wherever you are. Remember, you're only one decision away from reclaiming your life. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe there on YouTube if you like this content. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Until next time.